Oh yeah, we're doing this again. Pizza spin. This is my first time watching your live streams, and this is pretty much what I expect, not gonna lie. Good to hear! Because this was the highlight of yesterday's stream, was this spinning pizza with this music in the background. Spain without the A, yes. Look at it go, chat. Hope I recovered from the cough virus. Somewhat. Okay, we're gonna stop this there. All right, let's Okay, make sure I can. All right. Oh, this is for later. Ignore that. Okay. So, FNAF and MatPat. After however many years it's been, today is the release of Matthew Patrick's final game theory hosted on the channels. And I am going to cry on stream today, probably. But we can cry together. So according to the YouTube community post, hang on, let me pull that up. If I check the YouTube community post, the finale is supposed to be at 2 p.m. EST, which I'm pretty sure is in like an hour and 10 minutes. So, the plan until that point is, I'm planning to watch his last FNAF theory. I was going to do more than just this, but then I was tired and needed sleep. So we're going to probably just do this. I'm gonna react to his last FNAF theory, and then once the video goes up of his final game theory overall, we're going to watch it, and I'm going to cry. And if you cry, that's absolutely valid. We can cry as a collective group. It isn't an hour and 10 minutes? Okay, good. Time zone conversions are a thing that I struggle with sometimes. But yeah. MatPat has had an immense impact on me and my life. Without him, I would not be making theory videos. I would not be a FNAF fan. I don't know, that my life trajectory would have been very different because of just how much of a fundamental role MatPat has played to, like, me from the age of, like, 10 or 11 onwards, or, like, 11 or 12, somewhere in that range onwards. And yeah, the cough is still there. Rip. Okay. But yeah, so, I have already watched this video, but we're gonna watch it again, and I'll give my thoughts throughout, and we'll see if I can get to the end of this without crying, and then I won't get to the end of the other thing without crying. And once again, a reminder to those who may not be aware, this plushie is gonna be gone in 2 hours and 40 minutes, and we are 10 away from reaching the goal of 400, which means if it reaches 400, I will be streaming Security Breach at some point. So if you're at all interested in that or the plushie, make sure to check it out while you can. But yeah, so without further ado,
well, loyal theorists,
I'm not sure. I'm gonna turn up the volume on this because it's probably a little lower. Okay.
this is it. This will be my final FNAF theory, and this time, I mean it.
Sadness. Oh, the theme song. I love it so much. Ah, yes, the glitchy mess.
The pieces are in place for you. You missed it last week. Look,
Someone actually
breathe,
found an ARD
and
website
remember
for this, by the way.
everything I taught you.
So if you're
Remember,
interested in
dates are
ARDs, look
important.
into that
Remember the
or something.
hurry. Time is running out.
One more remains.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that, by my count, has had no less than 10 final FNAF theories. At this point, it's practically
lot.
become its own meme. But this time, it's no joke. After 66 theories, 3 live talkbacks, and 1
I was
bangin'
on one of
remix.
those.
Exotic waters.
Make that 2 bangin' remixes.
Music
Today, I
Man!
end my coverage of Five Nights at Freddy's. After this, there's only one final game theory, and then the curtain closes on my time as host, and Tom will have to step into the spotlight. Hope
Have
you're
fun,
ready for the
Tom.
challenge there, Tom. Tom?
Toy bunny.
You got
Easter
this.
bunny. Chocolate bunny. Melted chocolate bunny. Withered bunny.
He's
black
putting
heart
more
bunny,
effort into this
rockstar
than I
bunny,
would.
Glam rock bunny. Sunken toy bunny. Bonbon. Just bon. System error bunny. Nightmare bunny.
Well done, but how many toes does he have?
2. No. 3. 5.
All of the toes.
Ah, the first step of FNAF theorizing. Slowly losing your mind. I think he's gonna do just fine. You know, I did consider making my
He'll be
final theory about FNAF, but I actually have something really special planned for that one. So special, in fact, that we're gonna be doing a premiere for it on this channel next Saturday, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We're gonna have some fun. You guys will be able to chat with me live as that video releases. And who knows,
Oh, yeah.
there might even be some secrets to find. And most importantly of all, I get to say my final goodbye and thank you to all of you for the last 13 years. So
gonna cry
that's
so
next
hard.
week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Make sure you're subscribed so you're notified when that one goes live. Speaking of March 9th, just a quick reminder that that's also the final day of sales for my YouTubes. Once I retire as host,
We're not gonna
or
promote MatPat's
Theory of
YouTubes
Bot,
here
and
because
then
this
a
is
minute
my
detail,
video. We're
doesn't really feel final, you know? Plus, I'd probably end
But
up
that is
called
there if
normal
you guys
for
are
a
interested.
long time thinking about this one. How do you end a series like this? Should I just do a normal theory about some minute detail? Doesn't really feel final, you know? Plus, I'd probably end up
Understandable.
calling someone a robot, and then a bunch of people would get mad at me again. Should I redo
That's how
the
it goes.
ultimate FNAF timeline as one final here's the lore? Well, that would certainly be big, but it also doesn't feel like that much was changed post Ruin and Help Wanted 2 from
And
what we
likely
did
would
at
have
the end of
caused
last
way more
year.
stress
So I
than
didn't
he
really
needed
wanna
to
be
deal with.
redundant either. You can see the struggle that I was facing, right? This episode, it's a big deal to me. It is literally the end of my legacy with FNAF. And you see, that's when it hit me. Legacy. Typically, FNAF theories are born out of the small details, but what if I took a step back and looked at the big picture? What if instead of counting
When I saw this initially, I was like, oh, is he going to talk about themes when I just did a video on themes like 2 weeks ago? But then he didn't start talking about themes. Like he was saying, like, oh, we're gonna talk about the big picture. And that's what I was sort of trying to do with my themes video, but not this big picture level. Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
animatronic toes or dead kids, I took a meta approach and just looked at the entire legacy of FNAF. I'm sure we're all familiar with the butterfly
amazing.
effect, right? The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings
Butterfly.
could cause the smallest of changes in the air, which could potentially lead to a tornado forming. Well, the term actually comes from the research of meteorologist Edward Lorenz, who, back in 1963, decided to round some numbers.
I've always found
in
the
his
butterfly
data.
effect
He
super
condensed
interesting.
one variable from 0.506127 to just 0.506. And yet, that tiny change right there completely threw off his computer's weather models, transforming sunny skies into violent storms, hence the whole
Gotta love
tornado
it.
thing. This realization that small changes in data could yield such tremendously different results ultimately threw off science's entire understanding of nature. Before Lorenz, people thought that the universe could ultimately be predicted. Sir Isaac Newton back in 1687 famously believed in the clockwork universe, the idea that the parts
I
of
mean,
the
it might
universe
be able
worked
to be
like
predicted,
machines,
just
and then
not by
eventually,
humans.
if you understood how the parts worked, you could predict practically anything. French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace actually said basically the same thing. Eventually, we would get to a place where nothing would be uncertain. And yet, Lorenz showed us that one small change, one minor mistake or estimate or imprecise measurement in a complex system could have a domino effect at a massive scale, resulting in changes that you would never see coming. For example,
On that note, I do think that, like, part of the reason that the butterfly effect is so interesting is, like, it's not just a thing in the case of FNAF, even though that is the case. Like, if Scott hadn't made Five Nights at Freddy's, so many people's lives would have been on different trajectories. But like I mentioned in, I posted a video about a month ago in response to MatPat announcing he was going to be no longer hosting the channels. And if my cousins hadn't shown me that episode of Mario Game Theory when I was 11 years old, them showing me that is what started the domino effect of me watching YouTube in the first place. And then, like, getting invested in game theory and YouTube and there were other elements that led to me wanting to be a YouTuber, but like becoming a theory YouTuber, like so many things wouldn't have happened. So shout out to my cousins, love them, they're great. No idea if any of them are watching. If they are, hello. But yeah, it's crazy to think just how much like one small thing that someone does can like have such a massive impact in anyone's life.
In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered that there was mold in his petri dish, but rather than just throwing it away or cleaning it up, he decided to study it, which then led to the discovery of penicillin, a life-saving antibiotic that could be
Good
used
choice
to treat
there.
meningitis, pneumonia, gonorrhea, syphilis, blood poisoning, and many others. Or if you want another example, you have the explosion of hip-hop music largely owing its origins to a random lightning strike in New York City. In 1977,
Love
a
how
bolt
that
of
works
lightning
out.
put the city of New York into a 25-hour blackout. So what do you do for all that time that you're stuck in the dark? You loot and pillage, baby. New
Don't loot
Yorkers
and pillage,
started to
people.
ransack storefronts, including music shops full of instruments and supplies. Suddenly, expensive DJ equipment was in the hands of young aspiring musicians eager to experiment with hip-hop, which was a new genre of music just hitting the local scene. And thus, hip-hop was truly able to thrive. History is full of these sorts of stories, from the
I don't have much
foundations
to
of
comment on the
medicine and
history
music
stuff,
to even
sorry.
stuff as extreme as the origins of both World War I and II. Why do I bring all this serious stuff up in relation to Spooky Bear Game? Because FNAF is one of those rounded variables. One decision by Scott Cawthon reshaped
It's
gaming
wild.
and YouTube and the entire entertainment world as we know it. And that's not an exaggeration for effect. One man's decision to not give up, to try again in the face of rejection and adversity, literally shifted billions of dollars of the economy and affected hundreds of millions of lives in ways that are incalculable. And that is what I wanted to call
It's-
attention to in my final FNAF theory. FNAF shows us that by not giving up, one person can have a profound effect on the course of history itself. I feel like the origin
Because I don't want to just be playing MatPat's video and sitting here silently, I'm going to be commenting again. But yeah, it's really interesting with like when you're trying to work on a project. The first few times you're going to try and do something like as an artist, I'll probably be like using an art analogy for this. But like when you're starting to learn to draw, all your drawings are going to be terrible. Even when you've been drawing for like 8 years, your drawings are still going to be somewhat terrible. But as you keep working at it and progress more and more, like the more you do stuff, eventually you're going to get to something good. And once you hit that, like, and once you hit that, then once you find what works for you and how you can draw best, then you can go crazy places. And I feel like that's probably a similar case with Scott and his games, where a lot of his earlier ones was him experimenting and practicing and trying new things. And then with FNAF, that was when his, he had found a good target market. He had developed his skills enough to make something like this. And then he made his last-ditch effort to be a game developer, and it absolutely paid off. So don't give up on your dreams. Like, be realistic, but don't give up on your dreams.
story of FNAF's been talked about to death, but just to set the stage here, despite hitting it big with FNAF in 2014, its creator Scott Cawthon had been making games at that point for 20
Am I holding back tears? Not
since
yet.
1994.
Will be soon.
Yet, even in those earliest days, you can tell that Scott had a fascination with creepy robots, working their designs into projects like the sci-fi Ifer Moon and the religious Pilgrim's Progress. Even this incredibly rudimentary RPG Legacy of
Little squishy
Cyan has
guy.
a final boss that has what looks to be the first appearance of what would eventually evolve into the Mangle. But despite producing a lot of
is
games,
interesting.
none really ever caught the public's eye. And then came Chipper and Sons Lumber Company, where initial reviews,
Woo.
what the few there were
The spawning
rough.
of
And as
FNAF.
the story goes, it was the reaction to James Stephanie Sterling that would change the course of Cawthon's career forever. Thank God for her.
It's just all over the place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children. I
Rip.
imagine the phrase "kill me" is stated over and over again in the world of Chipper and Sons. Oh, they're robot beavers.
Imagine being the
That's
one
not
to
good. I
inspire
think he's
Scott
the
Cawthon
only
to create
living
FNAF by
thing in
insulting
this
his
world.
game.
This repeated criticism, plus the lack of financial stability, brought Scott down to his lowest. Ready to quit games, he decided to try one final time and lean into the thing that had been leveled at him time and time again, the creepy robotic animations. And thus, Five Nights at Freddy's was born. And that
Heck
right
yeah.
there, that's gonna act as our nexus point. The one flap of a butterfly wing. The decision to make a final game instead of just giving up. Now, let's see how it all maps out from there. Let's start with just the obvious downstream effects of this. That one game, over the course of the last decade, has spun off into 12, which honestly, I've never truly sat down and processed. But believe it or not, there are 12 of these things, depending.
Though technically speaking, if we want to be really technical, I'm pretty sure that security breach is referred to as FNAF 9 in the code. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we've got like this. This is a somewhat there's some lore here, but it's not like a game in order. And this one is, I'm pretty sure Ultimate Custom Night was originally meant to be DLC for Pizzeria Simulator, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting the way the. Okay, but also on this note, I think it's really funny. Scott said there was never going to be a FNAF 5, so he didn't make FNAF 5. He made a FNAF sister location instead. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sister location. No FNAF 5 has technically ever existed. Yeah, anyway, I just thought that was funny.
Depending on how you count it, the entire franchise has sold 9.9 million copies on Steam alone, which in total has an estimated revenue of $94 million. And that's not even including the console and mobile ports or the number of microtransactions for FNAF AR, which itself had over 40 million downloads.
And now it's gone.
Pointing out that of the $94
Rest
million,
in peace, FNAF AR.
55 million of that was just from Steam sales of Security Breach, because that one was actually at full price as opposed to all the others, which were either free or a couple of bucks. And while the first 4 FNAF games were entirely a one-man job, the rest have included voice actors, composers, entirely separate game studios like Steel Wool and Illumix. Even to this day,
I would like to shout out Leon Riskin, composer of Five Nights at Freddy's music, for being absolutely phenomenal at his job. I love his, like, the soundtracks of the games. 10 out of 10. Love them so much. And anyway, Into the Pit, which I streamed about yesterday.
Hey, we're seeing this continue with studios like Megacat, who up until now have been focused on releasing games on retro consoles, very niche market, but that made them perfect to create the retro-style pixelated FNAF game Into the Pit, releasing later this year. By pairing up with these smaller companies that aren't insanely well-known, Scott's not only been able to make bigger, better games, he's also been able to use his single game's success to put millions of eyeballs and millions of dollars into each of these companies. As a result of their work with FNAF, Illumix started working with Disney on features found throughout the parks, and if Steel...
See, man, it's kind of unfortunate, like, as soon as, like, I don't know the exact order of events or what actually happened, so, like, but it's like, they're working with Disney now. Meanwhile, FNAF AR just died. It is dead. It hadn't been updated in years anyway, but it is just well and dead now.
Will ever do release a game outside of FNAF in the future, you can bet that it's gonna have itself a fan base attached to it because people now know about them, and they're gonna want to see what other work they can do. So that's on the game side, or at least it's on the official game side, but stopping there would be overlooking the much bigger impact FNAF has had on the games that haven't even been released yet.
The fan
this
games.
One series inspired a whole new generation of game designers unlike any game that's ever really come before. All of them cutting their teeth on a genre that exploded in the mid-2010s.
It really is crazy just how many
there are. 5 Nights at Treasure Island, 5 Nights at Wario's, Pop Goes, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, Afton Built, Glitched Attraction, Bloody Nights Juniors, Day Shift at Freddy's.
Thanks.
I could go on and on and on for days. Some of these were just for the memes, others were more serious attempts at making games inspired by FNAF, and many of them were just taking the world that Scott had created and broadening it outward into the game that they wanted to see made. If you go onto Game Jolt, you'll find thousands of fan games, and I do mean thousands. If you search just
I
for
might
FNAF
not
and
play
select
the
games,
FNAF.
you're presented with 36.
Like, I might not play the fan games very much, but, like, watching people play the fan games and just the sheer amount of variety in what they are, like, the concept of Afton Built is super cool, where it's between the FNAF 3 Fire and Pizzeria Simulator, I think, and you're repairing Springtrap into you're building Afton into Afton from Pizzeria Simulator, I think. Like, I wish we had seen more of that. It would have been so cool. But, like, you've got stuff like that. You've got stuff that's more in line with, like, what happens in the normal FNAF games, where it's like you're in the office and doing stuff. You've got Animatronics Mechanism, where it's an arcade-style game. You've got, like... Man, it's just so... It's so cool to see the creativity of this fan base. Like, as much as I love the theory community, and, like, participating in, like, YouTube theorizing and stuff... coughing. Yes. As much as I like theorizing, I've always really enjoyed like the fan artists, the fan writers, the game developers. It's so cool. You can say Scrap Trap, I know, but technically Scrap Trap's not the canon name, you know? But yeah, it's really amazing to see just how much FNAF has inspired people.
games per page and 277 pages available. That is 9,961 games that are tagged using FNAF. And if you're sitting there thinking, hold on, the math there doesn't add up, you're right, good noticing. That's because I had to remove 11 of Scott's own games that were posted on that list. Though, I'm pretty sure that there are some out there who'd like to pretend that FNAF World was a fan game. Each and every
FNAF World was a fine game. I played it like 2 days ago and it was fine. Chat seemed to like it. But maybe there are some people who, not a fan.
one of those 10,000 fan games represents a budding game designer, sometimes several. And while yeah, many of those creators are likely never going to pursue game design full time, there are some who will, either independently or as part of a bigger studio, going on to have their shot at creating their own mega franchise, their shot to transform the industry. And already you can see that some of these devs are finding success, to the point where many of them have created multiple different games at this point, turning their fan projects into full-on franchises of their own. And all of this is without even mentioning the Fanverse initiative, where Scott invested money and resources into some of the most promising projects to help those fledgling businesses grow. Now, the success of that one is up for debate for various reasons, but the point ultimately stands. Five Nights at Freddy's has been directly and indirectly involved in the rise of a new generation of game developers. Developers that, just now, 10 years later, we're only starting to see get to a point where they're really influencing the wider gaming landscape. Except gaming
it's really
has
interesting
already
to see
seen
how
a
it's
massive
developed.
shift coming off the heels of FNAF. Prior to FNAF's release, if you took a look at any
Is this MatPat's final game theory? No, we're reacting to his final FNAF theory first, because the final game theory isn't going up for another 50 minutes. It is on the page now, I believe. Yeah, so once we're ready to go, it's here. We'll be able to watch it. But until then, we're watching through some previous videos. Thank you, Gabriel, for the $5. I might be at work. I'm ready for the final theory. I even might have my game theory St. Jude t-shirt on. Nice. Hang on, guys. My mom is calling. Okay, I'm back. All right. She didn't expect me to be awake. She expected an answering machine. I'm usually asleep at this time of day. My sleep schedule is so broken, guys. But yes, FNAF, game theory, all that fun stuff. We're reacting to this. But yeah, let's keep going.
top 10 list about horror games, it would have been filled with games like Outlast, PT, Amnesia, games that leaned hard into psychological horror and sometimes graphic gore. FNAF, though, was different. While other horror games used the classic horror trope of not knowing what the monster looked like, relying on the audience's mind to fill in the blanks of what might be lurking in the shadows, FNAF put the monsters front and center, allowing them to be the star of the show like we see in movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. This allowed
a couple things on this. I feel like this is part of why I enjoy mascot horror more than a lot of other horror, is just because, like, at least I'm not, like, living in complete dread the entire time. But also, I actually, after watching this video, I had a homework assignment for my marketing class where we had to, like, have 5 brands that we really liked and have a point of similarity between, like, that shows that this is part of the kind of thing, like, genre of whatever it is, and a point of difference. And so the point of difference after watching this was the mascot horror verse, like, stuff. I thought it was interesting.
allowed FNAF games to be much more thumbnail friendly and easier to sell online compared to the spooky dark hallways or overcomplicated monster designs that dominated the horror space in the past. Mix in the more family friendly scares of Freddy and the gang, and you've got yourself a brand new
They still give me heart
subgenre of
attacks,
content. Mascot horror.
Does FNAF actually scare you? Yes. There's a reason I don't usually play the games myself and just watch literally everyone else play them on 2 times speed, and without me always looking directly at the screen. So, yeah, my fight or flight reflex tends to kick in pretty strong. And, like, if I have a chance of dying in video games, I just live in constant fear. So, it's a great time, you know?
As dubbed by YouTuber John Wolfe. This genre took old nostalgic locations and filled them with brightly colored killers brought to life through some weird experiment or trauma. Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime, Rainbow Friends, My Friendly Neighborhood, Hello Neighbor, Baldi's Basics, Choo Choo Charles, Amanda the Adventure, and of course, Garten of Ban Ban. And that's not even dipping in.
Okay, speaking of Garten of Ban Ban, I was watching MatPat's GT Live, not lives, whatever, of him playing Kanito Pet. And he jokingly said that Garten of Ban Ban was his favorite game. And then there was a point in Kanito Pet where it like pulls up on a screen, oh yeah, this is your favorite game, right? And it was Garten of Ban Ban, and just the horror and resignation in his voice was the funniest thing to me. I thought it was so incredibly funny. But anyway.
And the hundreds of lesser-known titles like Joyville. It was FNAF who paved the way for all of these games. Poppy sold 2 million copies in 2 years. Bendy is...
And on Poppy, like, I wasn't super interested as of Chapter 1, but, like, then Chapter 2 happened, and Chapter 3 was really interesting. Bendy originally came out when I wasn't super interested in horror, so I didn't pay attention to, like, the original Bendy and the Ink Machine, but then Bendy and the Dark Revival, like, it's really cool seeing just the way all these franchises have improved and developed over time.
made over $30 million just off of its 2 major installments. Hello Neighbor is a thing that continues to exist.
It's a thing that exists.
Complain about oversaturation in the market
Gotta
at this
love
point.
it.
There is no denying that the formula has worked extremely well for the better part of the last 10 years. But maybe you're sick of games. You want to read a book? Well, I hope you're excited to read the 7 Hello Neighbor books, 5 Bendy books, and a Poppy Playtime Employee Handbook that's coming out later this year. Mascot horror franchises now also line the shelves of your local Barnes & Noble. Why?
Sometimes a month before they're supposed to be there. Shout out to the Tales from the Pizzaplex books.
Because FNAF did it first. Oh sure, Scholastic had done some video game book publishing in the past, mostly guidebooks and activity books, but after the success of the FNAF trilogy, they began to publish other video game books like Assassin's Creed Last Descendants, World of Warcraft Traveler.
I appreciate video game
This led
books.
them to launch an entire...
Like, I realize not everyone enjoys video game books, but as the kid in school who would be sitting at my desk reading when the teacher was talking, and got books confiscated regularly because of that, I am absolutely thriving with the books. It's great. Thank you, Angry Destroyer, for the 5. Much respect to you, and everyone else seems sick too. 07 to MatPat. Yeah. It seems the time of year for people to get sick, and we are going to miss MatPat.
separate wing to their business, AFK, the video game specific book department. It's these guys who are publishing all the books that Tom is now gonna have to read.
Have fun, Tom.
No, it's impossible to know for certain that FNAF was the reason for all this, but given it was often shown at the top of articles for this new publishing arm at launch and has sold 9 million books to date with an average...
Yeah, like, looking at this article, it's not at the very top, but it is above Pokemon. So, that's something, you know? I'll never get used to not hearing Matt's voice. Yeah, it's like, Tom's cool. I like Tom. He's fun to talk to and stuff, but like, I'm gonna miss Matt, you know?
top of articles for this new publishing arm at launch and has sold 9 million books to date with an average book price being about $10. That is $90 million infused into the historically struggling print publishing business. It's no wonder the first 6 rows of their website are dedicated to FNAF. Oh, without AFK, it's easy to
And the thing is, at this point, with the books having such major, like, lore connections, that's even more people buying the books. Woohoo!
imagine a world where these other mascot horror games didn't get that chance, and all those writers who've now been able to make a living off...
Speaking of other mascot horror books, the Bendy and the Ink Machine ones that I've read, I don't think I've read the most recent one, but the ones that I have read, I thought they're really interesting. I enjoyed them. You guys should check it out.
these franchises wouldn't be recognized like they are. I mean, take for instance Andrea Wagoner, who wrote the vast majority of Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories. She's now getting DM'd by fans asking for lore clarifications, something I'm sure she never anticipated while working on her past
And
writing
does she enjoy
projects,
it?
like her
Who
dog
knows?
how-to book Dog Parenting or Alternate Beauty, the story of a big girl with big dreams. Her words, not mine. The same thing is now happening with another struggling industry, movies. After spending 8 years in production hell, losing directors, struggling with studios, and trying to nail down a script, Blumhouse eventually took the chance on FNAF, making the movie on a $20 million budget and earning back nearly $300 million.
Like, the movie wasn't perfect, but it was really cool to see. And as a FNAF fan, I enjoyed it so much. I'm really excited for the next movie. And I think they're starting filming for that in July. Like, it seems fast, but also, like, the kids are only going to be kids for so long. You got to do it while they're still kids. Otherwise, it's going to be like, oh, yes, the missing teenagers incident. But yeah, like, the movie's so cool. And the fact that it made $300 million from that, like, $25 million budget, it's just insane. It was really funny reading the reviews when it was going to release. Like, all the critic reviews are like, I don't understand why people would like this. There wasn't a ton of gore. Why would people be interested in the story? I'm like, oh, you do not know the target audience at all, do you? This is FNAF. This is FNAF. What are you expecting from us?
If you don't think Hollywood has taken strong notice of that when they are struggling to get butts in seats, you are wrong. You think it's a coincidence that 2 months after FNAF's release, Bendy announced his big screen debut? And while a Poppy Playtime movie was already in the works with Studio 71, I can almost guarantee conversations with studios around it have shifted in the aftermath of FNAF. And who knows what other...
Who's interested in... It really, and like, I think it's particularly interesting how many of the movies are like the mascot horror. Like, we've got other video game movies going on, but like the mascot indie horror stuff. Like, first we get FNAF, then Poppy, then Bendy. Like, it's really neat.
Other mascot horror games might end up with movies down the line. And not only is it getting indie game movies greenlit, it's also reshaping film studio priorities. As they continue to fumble around in the dark, struggling to find ways to compete with...
Yeah, as much as I enjoyed the first few phases of the MCU, I have not watched pretty much any of the recent stuff except Spider-Man. So, thank you, Yato Genesis, for the 55. I'm not sure what currency that is. Thank you. FNAF critics when Freddy doesn't stop halfway through the movie and doesn't explain the lore to them. I know, right? They think that things are supposed to be straightforward. SMH.
Online content, I've literally had conversations with people in the film space about how they're trying to tap into that FNAF audience, that online community. The success of this one film will be shaping the types of movies that get made and how they look moving forward. I guarantee.
I have that poster
on
my wall.
Movie releases mean big bucks for big studios. The economic ramifications go way beyond just extra cash in the pocket of Jason Blum. The FNAF movie was shot in New Orleans, which, since Hurricane Katrina, has been an economically depressed part of the country. Now, I didn't know.
I think it's funny. You've got the FNAF movie. Filmed in New Orleans, set in Minnesota. Meanwhile, the games and the books are in Utah. And none of these places look alike to each other. So I think it's very amusing. I do kind of wish the movie had been set in Utah. I was born in Utah, so I'm kind of emotionally attached. Oh well. So much you can do. Like, they would have had to Photoshop mountains into the background, so that would have been a little awkward.
I know this at the time, but from speaking to local actors and business owners while I was down there filming last year, I learned that New Orleans actually has a long history in film production. When the state government of Louisiana first introduced tax breaks for film productions back in 2002, over 1,000 projects happened down there in the span of 7 years. Those productions created jobs, hired locals, and brought millions of dollars back into the city. However, pre-COVID, those incentives were rolled back, and productions have now started to move to other places like Georgia. That's why so many of the local actors and business owners I spoke with while down there were eager to see the FNAF movie in town. By shooting in New Orleans, a huge chunk of that $20 million budget was going to accommodations, drivers, caterers, local talent, location rentals, equipment, and other general resources that help local businesses thrive, and maybe start a domino effect to get other movies back in the region. Regardless of all of that, the point is that...
Stop it. I'm stopping this to, like, read some of the chat that I think is funny. Can't believe you were destined from birth to be a FNAF theorist. Apparently. An ID is canon to Utah confirmed. Yep, that I am. Utah might be real. I know, right?
This one decision to try one final game, it's grown beyond itself. It's
Nebraska doesn't look like what Mike thinks it looks like from a Nebraskan. Yeah. That's the other one where it's like, that's a little I remember in the being in there and someone mentioned that like one of the first things they mentioned I think like about the dream sequences was like that is not what the trees in Nebraska would look like. And I thought that was funny.
It's no longer about just making its own franchise full of games. It's spread to all corners of the media industry and to so many other IPs and creators, spawning a wave of new franchises and giving life to so many careers that otherwise might not have had a chance. But speaking of careers, there's one final area that's also needing to be addressed. An area that has been so affected by FNAF, it's crazy to not talk
Here
about.
it is.
And that, of course, is here on YouTube. FNAF has done a lot of numbers for a lot of industries, but its effect on the YouTube landscape is still visible to this day, and in a much more obvious way. When FNAF first launched, it was just one of many games that YouTubers started playing because spooky games got big views. This game gave rise to some of the biggest names on the platform. Names that are still going strong today. Let's players like Corey X Kenshin and Markiplier, who'd been on YouTube for a couple of years, but saw their careers accelerate in parallel alongside the FNAF releases. You also had a massive surge in nerdcore musical artists, like The Living Tombstone, whose FNAF song was at 1 million views in a couple of weeks, whereas most other songs they would release would have a few 100,000 views a month.
Speaking of FNAF fan songs, I know a lot of people have seen it, but Terrible Things by Axie is so good, and I love it so much. And you should all listen to it. Like, I don't necessarily agree with the theory premises of it, but it's really good. Utah and Nebraska are real? People live there? Yeah. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, like, Terrible Things is such a good song. And the vibes of the chorus are immaculate, and like I don't know how accurate it is to William's character progression, but the idea of him being like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay alive, and I'm gonna be Springtrap, and no one's gonna be able to kill me," to being like, "Why can't I just die? Please let this end." I think it's very entertaining. Just subbed, thank you.
After release. And Machinima creators started using FNAF models and characters to tell their own unique stories long before the FNAF movie ever hit theaters, racking up literally billions of views. But what truly set FNAF apart were obviously the hidden details cluing fans into the bigger story. This, more than anything else, ignited the internet's passion like never before, giving rise to the theorist community. People like Dawko, Rezbowski, 8-Bit Ryan, Rytoast, idsfantasy, Hyperdroid, John FNAF, and of course, us
the Theory
going through
Squad,
this game
let's go!
Piece by piece in order to find the hidden story within it. Now, contrary to popular belief, FNAF wasn't the first thing that actually had us creating lore theories. That was always just part of the channel's DNA. But before FNAF, we were coming up with lore theories for franchises where the story was basically well known. Whether or not
that's part of the reason I mostly just stick to FNAF content on the channel. Like, I like other franchises, but there's not always a ton of content I could make out of it. Like, I like Pokemon. Would I be able to make a ton of, like, in-depth Pokemon theories? I don't know, maybe one or two. But most of it's pretty straightforward, and other people who have more time have already figured it out. Like, and then there are, like, the shows I watch, and maybe there's something I could talk about there, but a lot of the time with TV shows, they tell you most of the things. So there would still only be, like, some stuff to do. But with FNAF, so much is left open that it's really, really cool, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for people like me to do stuff like this. Like, it's like, as much as people wish that Scott would be more straightforward with the lore, I kind of don't think it's a problem, since most of the fun of FNAF comes from theorizing about it and trying to figure out what the lore is. ID hasn't coughed yet. I have been, like, sucking on a cough drop this entire time, and I did cough earlier. But yes, it's like, I love how 90% of FNAF lore is just speculation, but we all just take it as facts. I know, right? It's amazing. But, like, so much of FNAF is based on trying to put the puzzle pieces together, and people's headcanons and theories and the stories that they come up with, that, honestly, if Scott were to give the entire lore, a lot of the magic would be lost, I think. But yeah, Like, as much, I would like some answers, but I don't mind that we're not getting them as much as some other people might. But yeah.
Jorah's mask is an allegory for grieving. You get the story of a moon crashing down. Regardless of whether Peach is Rosalina's mom, you get the basic premise of Mario Galaxy.
Yep.
Humans certainly might be Pokemon. That's not really affecting anyone's journey to become a league champ. But FNAF
Unless they're psychic.
was different. It showed that games could be built off of withholding the lore and forcing the fanbase to solve it.
The editing for Scott's eyes in this frame. They made the irises and pupils so big. The eyes have been expanded. Oh, man.
By leaving the door open and never confirming anything, Scott allowed YouTubers, Redditors, and just general fans to continually assess and reassess the lore, find new directions, new hot takes. And that means that
They're
we're
all
still
robots.
theorizing about it to this very day. Can it be frustrating? Absolutely. Heck, maybe now that I'm retiring from the channel, I can track Scott down and get some answers out of him. But it's also entertaining. And the success of this theory-based model on YouTube has carried over into the mainstream, where now almost every game and movie release is designed with theory crafting in mind. While it's
very cool.
impossible to calculate the full scope of FNAF on YouTube, I was able to find that there are 106 videos with more than 10 million views each. Together, they total roughly 5.4 billion views on just their very own. And if we assume that they're getting the standard gaming CPM on YouTube, which is about $4.55, that then's a total earning across all of those videos of $24,570,000 in ad revenue. Markiplier's literally gone on record to say that the house that he lives
You
in
think Scott's kids know the lore? That is a good question. I wonder if Scott's wife knows the lore, and like if she's just the person he rants to about it. Just like he's got to be telling someone this in order to stay sane, you know?
is the house that FNAF paid for, and he's joked on his Distractable podcast about how lucrative FNAF's been for him.
Let's go into a fan favorite here. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, yeah.
So there's two ways I could look at this. I could look at it from the game purely by itself, or I could look at it at the dividends it is paid out for me specifically.
And that's put him in a position
Fair.
to pursue bigger and loftier projects like the With Markiplier series, and now his movie Iron Lung. One half of the Living Tombstone, Sam Haft, is now writing songs for internet sensations like Has Been Hotel. YouTubers like FNAF and Rytoast, they've been able to go full-time with YouTube, all thanks to FNAF. And heck, look at us. Because of FNAF, we've thrived. We've been able to grow our-
MatPat said Ollie knows the lore better than he does. I mean, the thing is, like, once you spend so much time in the FNAF lore, you end up getting so bogged down by the details you stop knowing the lore. Which I think is part of the reason that, like, going into the franchise with Security Breach worked so well for me, was I didn't have all the baggage of previous theories and stuff. Like, I'd watch the occasional FNAF game theory, but I wasn't, like, paying attention or anything. So, and Ollie didn't have to deal with the decade worth of lore theorizing.
team, give jobs to dozens of people, and perhaps best of all, we've carved out our own platform that allows us to turn the spotlight onto a next generation of creatives, to make us tastemakers in the space that are able to pay it forward, to make
Salt.
you aware of projects that you should be playing and watching, from Cooking Companions, to The Man in the Suit, to Shipwrecked 64, Welcome Home, Mandela Catalog, Walton Files. The list goes on and on and on. In short, FNAF created an ecosystem where new ideas can thrive, a virtuous cycle that benefited itself, to be sure, but also had a halo effect on dozens of other franchises looking to get attention. And all of this is without even mentioning other trickle-down effects. Our large platform allowed us to run charity events like St. Jude, paying that
It was
blessing
so cool.
forward to help doctors and hospitals working on treatments for childhood cancer, where of course, Scott himself was a sizable and direct contributor year after year. There were also dozens of other charity events coming from creators like Dawko, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Rytoast, John FNAF. Not only have these events been able to raise tens of millions of dollars for various organizations looking to do good work in the world, hopefully those events in turn inspired others, you out in the audience or other creators, to adopt a spirit of generosity and giving in their own lives. And again, it all comes down to this one decision. One guy who in the face of adversity and criticism chose not to give up. That is the millions of people and
crazy.
billions of dollars affected by that one Spoopy Bear game. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for all of that. And while all of this is cool and impressive and inspirational, it's also overwhelming, right? You look at the impact that one decision like this can have and you feel like you can never live up. I know that's how I feel sometimes. But remember, it's all about small decisions making a domino domino effect. Just being kind
Yeah.
to someone else, saying something nice, holding a door, listening to someone's problems, making them laugh, all of those are seemingly small things that can make a massive difference in the way someone's day's going. And that to me has always been the power of these channels. They're a place to learn a little something, a place to brighten your day in some small way, which then you can pay forward to other people in your life. And that positivity, it spreads. It spreads and creates real massive change. That to me, honestly, is the hardest thing about leaving these channels, losing that chance to be a force of just a little bit of good in your life. But you know what? I'm not done yet. I'll see you one last time next week, March 9th at 2 p.m.
Not
Eastern,
next week.
11 a.m. Pacific, as I
In one
celebrate with
half
you
hour.
one final time as a theorist community. Until then, as always, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Ah! Oh yeah, and here's the website thing for the ARG stuff, I think. I don't know, whatever that was. But ah! Oh my gosh. All these years, and it's come down to this. Oh my gosh. So, that was his last FNAF theory. This will be going up in about 30 minutes. The plushie will cease to exist in about 2 hours. So, we need, looks like we need 5 more before I will, set stuff up to eventually stream Security Breach. So if you want the plushie, buy one sometime in the next 2 hours because we've got limited times. Bring out the tissue box ID? Yeah, I'm gonna have to. But I'm thinking, like, since we do have some time before the final theory starts, I want to watch the theory that, inspired me to start FNAF theorizing in the first place. Cause where's the buttons? Work, please, thanks. Alright, where's the FNAF ones? Where's the FNAF ones? Okay, view full playlist. Cause I watched some previous ones, but the one that actually got me to start, doing FNAF theorizing, or being interested in it, was this one. So, without, words. I can sentence. I'm not usually awake this early. Anyway, I say early. It's almost the afternoon. Anyway, alright. So this...
After years of waiting, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach has
2
finally
years ago.
launched, and with it, we now have a whole load of mysteries to discuss.
Let's see how well
What's
it holds
the deal
up.
with the Vanny therapy tapes? Why is this room from Sister location in the Pizzaplex? Who is the best animatronic, and why is it
Music Man!
There are a lot of things to solve in this massive game, as lore hides behind every pirate poster and inside every arcade cabinet. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
theory I have today goes to the heart of this game, addressing the one character that we spend a lot of time
The boy.
with, but don't actually see all that much.
The gremlin
And that's
child.
Our main character of Security Breach, Gregory. Yep, in a
Look at
franchise
him.
full of dead kids, I want to focus on the first ever living child we've seen in the main story
Living,
of the
quote,
games,
unquote.
except for in the Fruity Maze minigame, but we all know that she ends up dead. Who is Gregory? What is Gregory? And why is he such a cold-hearted savage to Roxy and the rest of the animatronic gang?
I'm so
They were
mad
trying to
that you're
murder
driving
him.
without my permission. Oh my gosh! Gregory is brutal.
My friends, the
There-
answers
there
to
she
those
goes.
questions will recontextualize everything that you thought you knew about this series. So let's begin.
Man.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that can't help but stuff its face with FNAF lore like Chica stuffs her face with pizza and garbage. I guess at this point it kind of applies to us too. Anyway, if you want to stuff your YouTube feed with FNAF videos, then hit that subscribe button right now, because today starts what I expect to be a
I would say the same for my channel. If interested in FNAF videos, subscribe.
3-part series into the many unsolved mysteries of Security Breach. I mean, on the surface, the game seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Survive being trapped in a mall for one night. Looks
As
like
one
the
does.
new team forgot to read the title of the franchise. But that's nothing. That's easy. Once you start looking into secret rooms,
Five Nights at
secret
Freddy's, but
tapes,
one night.
secret
But actually
endings,
Five
secret
Nights?
minigames, and actually bother to read all the emails and item descriptions, you learn that there is a lot more here. Stuff that looks both backwards at the series that came before and forwards into what is coming next. Stuff that, quite frankly, I'm still working on piecing together. This is a
Let's hope
big game with lots of places to hide things. But today, I want to focus on a mystery that I do feel like I have a pretty solid handle on. The relationship between Gregory and Glamrock Freddy. What's the deal with this random kid, and why is a killer animatronic suddenly trying to help him? Like, seriously, the game kicks off with this incredible cutscene. Everyone is living
This is
their
so
best
cool.
80s-tastic lives on stage before Freddy suddenly glitches out and smashes.
Like, I know that this theory gets a lot of hate from various parts of the community, but when I was watching it for the first time, I thought it was so cool. Like, I guess I'm just not tired out of the older characters yet, but for me, the idea of previous characters coming back was really, really interesting. But like, I really like this theory. I don't understand why. Like, I sort of get why people want things to move on, but I think that like it's a good way to tie in, like have some old characters tying into new characters, and then also having new characters. But I don't know.
Cut to Gregory just being there. I guess. It is one of the weirdest, most jarring intros to a game ever. And then from that
Fun
point
times.
forward, we're just expected to assume that everything is perfectly normal, no explanations necessary. So I'm here to give you that explanation, because I strongly suspect that this boy is not a boy, and this robot is not a robot, and that the story of their relationship is one that's trying to make amends for one of the earliest and most pivotal points from this entire franchise. To begin, let's establish what we do know about Gregory in order to piece together the rest. So, what does the game offer us in terms of his backstory? Nothing. First and foremost, we know that he's pretty much off the radar. At the start of the game, Freddy does a quick scan only to realize
your guest profile is unknown to me.
But what's interesting is we now know that he used to have one as GGY. So that guest profile would have been there and then was deleted.
Similarly, when security guard Vanessa is chatting it up with Freddy, we hear this part of their conversation.
That is great news. He can be returned to his parents.
He can't. Turns out, there's no record of him.
Clearly, Gregory is not a guest at the Pizzaplex. It also seems like he has nowhere else to go. In the game's bad ending, unlocked by just leaving the building at 6 a.m., we see Gregory winding up in an alleyway sleeping in a cardboard box. He appears to be homeless. He's an orphan. This then explains a few other things that we see around the Pizzaplex. In a couple of hidden locations around the building, we find little dens that are filled with drawings, plushies, and beds. The most notable one being the one behind the daycare center. Gregory seems to be living inside the Pizzaplex, which would explain his lack of a guest pass.
It is
You can't
rather
even be sure
interesting.
that his name is Gregory. In the game's opening scene, Gregory has no issues speaking to Freddy.
Will you shut up?
Who said that?
I did.
However, once Freddy asks him for his name, he stutters.
I'm Gregory.
Why would he?
So as someone who does believe Gregbot, but mostly the reason I believe it is less because glitchy vision and stuff, and more the sister location room code like says break and mend. I built the breath they hunt, now drawn to life, not real, still keen and friend. Anyway, all that stuff. And then proceeds dodge, duck, flash, shoot, crawl, run, crush the vile band. It describes what Gregory does. So to me, like the life not real that like they hunt, to me makes sense as being Gregory. But Gregory, the identity, like even if Gregory is a robot, that doesn't mean there wasn't a human Gregory at one point. Just like in the novel trilogy, there was a human Charlie at one point, but then there was a fake Charlie put in. Or in Fazbear Frights with Fazgoo, there was a original person, but then the Fazgoo became that person. Like stuff like that, like people have pointed to Gregory, like, going to school and having a family as evidence that he couldn't possibly be a robot, but, like, we know robot people who had families and went to school. So, like, if he has, like, an illusion disc or something going to make him look human, he could totally be a robot. Just pretending, like, taking the place of the original human child and who was named Gregory, but maybe the actual spirit is named something else. Could be the stuttering of the name here.
He stutter on his name when he was clearly fine answering everything else just seconds before. So, what? Is that it? Gregory's just some homeless kid that sets up shop in the Pizzaplex and happens to get wrapped up in Afton and Vanny's plans? Yeah, right. Of course not. Nothing in this franchise is ever an accident. Take a look at Gregory here. Notice anything familiar? Dark eyes, brown hair with a piece fallen between his eyes.
I do agree that the character design looks a lot like the Crying Child, but saying that Gregory has dark eyes when his eyes are a sort of yellowy brown is a bit questionable, but everything else of this is a good point. Like, this feels like a very deliberate character design choice. Thank you, Crashmaster, for the $5. The FNAF theory that got me into full-time theorizing was the second part final theory in 2017, just before FNAF 6 release. Still a favorite, too. Nice!
Shorts, a shirt with 2 stripes across the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, Gregory is none other than the Crying Child. Don't believe me? Early on, we get this weird moment when Freddy
like, even if their outfits aren't identical, the visual similarities are still very, very notable. And I don't think they should be dismissed, you know? Brown eyes are also dark eyes. Yeah, but like, with the lighting, it doesn't really lend as much, because Gregory's eyes are more yellowy? I wouldn't personally describe it as dark, but other than that, yeah.
Suddenly stops what he's doing and says this.
I feel you are broken.
We all know that the language in this franchise is never chosen by accident. Everything is meticulously crafted, so is it a coincidence then that the word broken is only used one other time in the FNAF series to describe a child? That iconic FNAF 4 clip with Crying Child and Golden Fredbear, you're broken, we're still your friends. I will put you back together. The fact
And on the note of the "you're broken" line, originally in the files, it was you're bleeding, and people have used that to debunk GregBot. But CharlieBot in the books could bleed, so that still wouldn't debunk it necessarily.
The fact that both Crying Child and Gregory look alike and are considered to be broken screams of a connection existing between these two. Him being the Crying Child would also explain why he has nowhere else to go. His dad is an undead zombie living inside a yellow bunny suit, and his mom is MIA. There's also lines like this.
Your parents want you to follow me.
I do like that. I do like this. I'm not sure how, like, deliberate this was, but, like, the fact that Glitchtrap is controlling the glam rocks, presumably, and your parents want you to follow me, if William is trying to get Gregory caught, that would make sense there.
Family is looking for you. Let me take you to your parents.
On one hand, this just sounds like Chica spouting out some generic security protocol. On the other hand, if indeed Gregory is the Crying Child, Chica's lines here take on a whole new meaning.
Yep.
Because she is quite literally bringing him to his family. His father living in the basement, William Afton. But obviously there's one big problem with this. One that I'm sure all of you are screaming at your monitors or typing.
And for those who, maybe being like, but what about it being the mimic in the basement? For that, I recommend my most recent full-length theory video up on my channel about the identities of Glitchtrap and Burntrap. It's pretty cool. You should watch it if you haven't. But yeah, moving on.
Aggressively down in the comments. Crying Child is dead. He died in FNAF 4 when his older brother Michael picked him up to be chomped. And not
Rip.
only did he die, his soul then went on to be one of the 2 spirits possessing Golden Freddy, the other being the vengeful spirit Cassidy, before he was finally put to rest by the puppet in the happiest day ending of FNAF 3. This kid is well and truly gone. He is removed from the franchise. He is one of the few cards that are officially off the lore table. So why then do I dare invoke his name here? Because Gregory
His name,
is a
yes,
robot.
Crying Child TM.
A rebuilt version of the Crying Child. Flame shields activate because it's time for everyone's favorite segment. MatPat uses the lore from multiple FNAF books to try and explain parts of the game that don't make sense. I'll try to make this as quick and painless for all of us as possible. In the books, children having tragic premature deaths and then being rebuilt as robots by their grieving fathers is something that happens a lot. Like, if I had a nickel for every time this plot line showed
Crying Child Afton legal name. Exactly. Exactly.
Up, I'd have like 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 3 times. In the original novel trilogy, the whole big twist of that was that Charlie, daughter of Henry Emily, died as a kid, and that her father put her back together by building robotic versions of her, each one representing a different stage of her growing up development. Then again, in Fazbear Frights, we have the character of Eleanor, who is strongly implied to have been built as a replacement daughter, as well as Dr. Telbert, who developed Remnant as a way to preserve his sick and dying daughter. And all of this is without me even going into the numerous stories where children get swapped out for robots and or Fazgoo, which, once it has your DNA, basically creates a clone of you. If that's the future of the franchise, we're going down some weird paths, my friends. Anyway, to summarize, there's evidence in the wider canon that FNAF 4's lines about the crying child being broken and needing to be put back together were meant to be much more literal than any of us first suspected. But we don't even have to—
I will say, I don't think that those lines in the original FNAF 4 were meant to be literally building a robot child. I think that was just because that same putting back together phrase is used to describe the aftermath of Sister Location, where Baby and Elizabeth, like, fully became, like, Elizabeth was, like, awake, theoretically speaking. My thought is that was the crying child's spirit being put back together in Fredbear, and becoming Golden Freddy. So I don't think that Robot Child was built at that time. But I do think this is a case of Robot Child.
To go that far. Within Security Breach itself, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that Gregory isn't exactly what he seems. When Vanny spots you and starts to get closer, your vision gets a CRT effect. Basically, the horizontal lines that old TV monitors used to get. And it's worth remembering that since this is a first-person game, that is representing your vision. So why are your eyes suddenly behaving like cameras on the fritz? Unless, you know, they are cameras on the fritz. Later in the game, once we defeat Roxanne Fritz, unless, you know,
I like
they
the pun.
are
Cameras on the fritz.
cameras on the fritz. Later in the game, once we defeat Roxanne Wolf, we can take out her eyes and upgrade Freddy. Our Fazwatch tells us that, quote, Roxy sees things differently than others. Sometimes she'll stare and talk to the other bots through walls. She's able to see things that others can't, which allows us to see collectibles like secret CDs. In a way, she has a sort of X-ray vision, which is why when you first install him into Freddy, his comment really stands out.
How are your new eyes?
I am having a hard time adjusting. You look different to me.
It's almost like he was seeing Gregory as a normal child, but now that he has these new eyes, he's able to see through Gregory's skin and reveal something that he wasn't expecting, like, say, an animatronic endoskeleton. Also, Gregory can be inside Freddy when he's inside the charging stations, which on its own feels weird. Like, I kinda expected you to hop out
Dude's
and
gonna
leave
get
him to
electrocuted.
charge, but nope,
Rip.
we pilot him inside of it and then sit there as he charges. Or could it be that those charging stations are as much for us as they are for him? Remember that secret den behind the daycare where we assumed Gregory's living? There's a strange amount of decommissioned and what appear to be salvaged security robots. Maybe for a kid who needs a robotic upgrade. The fact that there's no—
That could be, some people have pointed to the Band-Aids. Why would a robot kid need Band-Aids? But, like, if his skin was torn and it wouldn't be able to heal because he's a robot, he would kind of need Band-Aids to cover that up. Anyway, just thought that was interesting.
Gregory would also make sense. If he's an animatronic, there wouldn't be records of him because he's not technically a human. It would also explain why Gregory has no parents. But maybe the biggest point of evidence comes from the very beginning of the game, where during the opening cutscene we see Freddy glitch out. This sets him on a course of being good for the rest of the game. But what causes that glitch to happen in the first place?
Oh, yeah.
Well, by going frame by frame, we can see that there's a security threat on the loose, and it looks to be a small child. What? It's Gregory. It has to
Hacker
be.
boy,
Gregory
look
the
at him
threat
go.
here. A robot that poses a threat to Freddy's programming. But why? How? What would make sense about that? Well, to understand that connection, it's time to put a pin in Gregory and turn our attention over to Freddy. If you unlock Freddy's final secret ending, you end up going below the Pizzaplex, only to discover a former Freddy Fazbear location, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. If that
this was
name
such a
doesn't
cool
mean anything
reveal.
to you,
Like, even before I was into the lore and understood what was going on, I was watching MatPat's playthrough and him finding this place down there. Like, I was absolutely invested. It was so cool to see, like, this reveal and then the reveal of Burn Trap. Like, even if it wasn't teased as well as it could have been, it was so, it was awesome.
It shouldn't, really. Most of the restaurants in the series go unnamed. But while the name might not mean anything, the layout should be a familiar one. One large rectangular stage with lights on the trim and big speakers on either side, and a smaller semicircle stage right next to it. It's from FNAF 6, Pizzeria Simulator. Notice the stools that are placed right in front, the checkered floor. We even have purple striped tablecloths and blue, green, and red plates, exactly like we saw in Pizzeria Simulator. As a refresher, this is the location that Henry lured all of the roaming animatronics to in order to burn them to the ground one final time.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
The
so don't
soundtrack
keep
goes
the
so
devil
hard.
waiting, friend.
And this is it, here. Seems like Henry's plan didn't quite work as expected. We still
Rip.
see pretty much everyone that he tried to torch away, and they're all alive and well and thriving underground. Springtrap is there, Molten Freddy is there as this big black blob, and if you look inside that blob, you can even see Baby. And heck, even the puppet kinda lessens the impact of that Savage Henry speech from FNAF 6.
He did
but
his
whatever.
best.
Anyway, the reason I bring this up, outside of it giving me a chance to remind everyone that I totally called something like this happening at the end of the last theory from a year ago, is that
Good job,
one
Matt.
character is notably absent here. Michael Afton, who we're reasonably sure was the guard working at the FNAF 6 location and the one who helped to burn it down.
And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you.
Man, so cool.
Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you wanted. I have a
What if it was what he wanted? Why was Henry just assuming Michael wanted to get set on fire? Because if Michael's spirit was sticking around, clearly he still had unfinished business, which might just be because his dad was still around. But, Henry, did you ask Mike if he wanted to die? Did you ask? You gotta ask these things first before just arbitrarily. You could have at least given him the option to leave. But he didn't. SMH Henry.
feeling that you are right where you want to be.
After being scooped, turning purple, and trying to undo his family's sins location by location, he went down with the ship and burned alongside his father and sister. Which means that presumably he should be here somewhere. And yet he's not. Unless, of course, he's taken on a new form. Say perhaps Glamrock Freddy. We know for a fact that Freddy's been down here based on some of the lines that he drops during the finale.
I know what this is. I have been here before. She brought me here. I had no choice. Now I have a choice. I have changed.
I can't believe he skipped the "I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path" right here, because that is like the line that I feel helps prove it. Because like, I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path, and I didn't want to, but now I have a choice and I'm going to protect you. Like, that whole situation is I was just a normal animatronic, but then I had to clear this path, and I found myself. And so now I'm someone else and I'm going to protect you. I'm not me. Like, that very much gives, oh, this dude is possessed vibes. It's man, like, this, like, I understand people want, like, normal animatronic Freddy AI, whatever stuff. But possessed Freddy, like, for most of the game, the thing is, like, he's mostly functioning on AI. But, like, that doesn't, like, the spirit can, like, still be there with the AI still being intact. Animatronics, even when possessed, are somewhat controlled by their code. So, it's very interesting.
My friends are here. They are so angry, confused, but I can protect you.
So he's in a place where he can get possessed. We also hear that Freddy isn't acting like his normal self, saying,
I am not me.
And in yet another ending, the fire ending, Freddy is more than prepared to set the place ablaze, much like Michael Afton did to
Michael and his
Fazbear Fright
arsonist
in
tendencies,
FNAF 3.
the true evidence that Freddy is Michael Afton.
I guess old habits die hard. And nothing says that clearer than the replica of Mike's room from sister location that's hiding inside the Pizzaplex. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, hidden inside the mall is the exact replica of Mike's living room from sister location, down to the TV, lamp, and basket of exotic butters.
Exotic butter.
Exotic butters.
Exotic.
But here's the kicker. Over on Mike's wall is a coded message, one that was solved through an incredible team effort from Dawko and the rest of the FNAF subreddit. It reads as follows, quote, "Break and mend."
Hang on. Break and mend, I built the breath they hunt, now drawn to life, not real, still keen, and fraught with thought and zest and jest, no blunt woes, dodge, duck, flash, shoot, crawl, run, crush the vile band, cry not, try not, something like that. Try not, do not hold out hope, know your life, your aim will save those with soul.
And I built the breath. They
Ignore all the punctuation. The
crawled
punctuation
to
is
life.
not
real,
actually
still
in
me, and Frit and
in
fraught with
this.
thought and zest and guessed no blunt.
And this is actually incorrect. It is not still, it does not say still me. There are some errors here because this was from earlier on when it was still being solved. I memorized it, yes. I had to talk, so I talked about this code in my theory on the post-it room, and I just had to say it I had to say it enough to where I just memorized it. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, that is not what it actually says there. It doesn't say still me, it says still keen. Thought and zest and jest, no blunt woes.
Woes. Dodge, duck, flash, shoot,
crawl, run, crush the vile band.
Cry not,
try not, do not hold
out hope. Your life, your aim will save
There's
those
a know your life, your aim will save those with soul.
Soul. I feel like this is some sort of a poetry reading. Snaps, everyone. Snaps. Snaps. Yeah, man, cue the bongos. All right, basically, this is just a bunch of fancy talk, all relating to Mike's personal journey. The first line
I disagree
is all
with
about
that.
breaking and repair.
I think this is more about Gregory because, like, crush the vile band, all the stuff Gregory does. They hunt, now drawn to life, not real, still keen. But yeah.
Things, and in doing that, creating new life. In other words, Ennard and Baby. The rest is all about his commitment to try and stop the evil animatronics and try to save any of them with a soul left in their bodies. Now, does the presence of this room and poem necessarily mean that Mike is Freddy? No, but I do think it's telling that we're reminded of Mike's commitment to save everyone inside of a room that you're required to find alone in the dark, i.e. without Glamrock Freddy hovering over your shoulders.
Imagine if Freddy was able to go to this room and then just had an existential crisis seeing it. He's like, this was my house!
Heck, during the finale, we even get this line from Glamrock Freddy.
My friends are here. They are so angry, confused.
I will say, like, I'm pretty sure this next part, being about the Blob, being his friends.
About Molten Freddy.
Yeah. This, actually put me off of the Glam Mike theory for a little bit because I didn't see any way that Mike would have considered anything in the Blob to be his friends or for the FNAF 4 bullies to be in the Blob. And then I realized, oh wait, he's actually probably talking about the Glamrock animatronics who are still his friends even if he is Michael. And they're down there and he would be able to see them with Roxy's eyes. Thank you to one of my friends for pointing that out to me.
Inside of the Blob. It's very possible that those were indeed his friends captured and killed back in the day. Maybe William himself struck back against the kids that had bullied his youngest son, and now some of their spirits are trapped below the surface as part of the Blob in this abandoned restaurant. Or maybe that's why Gregory is so brutal to all of these animatronics at the end of each boss battle. They killed him back in 1983, and now it's his turn to show the bullies no mercy.
That would be
by
wild.
Launching a go-kart at their face and ripping out their eyeballs. And meanwhile, Freddy is sad because they are quite literally his friends from when they were alive. But to me, honestly, the biggest connection points between Mike and Glamrock Freddy are thematic. Their narrative. Mike has been moving to location after location to try and undo his father's horrible work. This would just be a continuation of that story, as both Aftons return post-fire.
Yes.
And more importantly, it also completes the arc of the crying child and his older brother. Since accidentally killing his brother in FNAF 4, Michael's been trying to make amends. This
we don't have enough time. We're gonna do this on faster speed.
An older brother finally able to protect and defend his younger sibling in a way that he failed to earlier in their lives. This is also why Freddy's programming would glitch out after he encounters Gregory in the opening cutscene. The soul of Mike, buried deep in Freddy's code, comes through upon sensing his brother again. It hotwires the system so that Michael Afton, in the body of Freddy, can defend his kid brother. And the Afton story doesn't stop there either. In part of the Pizzaplex, we find a family dinner scene made up of decommissioned staff robots. A father, a mother that kind of looks like
Laura, a daughter with rosy cheeks, limited time here.
A son, and one with its head missing. The child whose head was bitten off in 1983. This is very clearly the Afton family. There is no doubt about that. The story continues in this game. In fact, I expect that's why the Save Vanny ending here is so important. If you manage to find and complete all the Princess Quest arcade cabinets hidden throughout the Pizzaplex, you get an ending where we are able to save Vanny from the control of Glitch Trap. This is something that we predicted would be possible literally a year ago in a theory, but I bring this up not to pat myself on the back, but rather to call out the final moment of this ending, where we see Gregory, Freddy, and Vanny all sitting together on a hill. A hill that I should point out is oddly reminiscent of the FNAF 6 Gravestone Hill. It feels
interesting.
Like all these characters have some sort of history. Why would Vanny be there otherwise? Unless this is meant to be the crying child, Michael, and maybe even Elizabeth, the Afton children, the 3 kids who literally had their lives stolen by the evil deeds of their father, finally reunited, finally able to share a moment of peace and chill. After all, Vanessa does have green eyes and blonde hair, just like someone else that we know from the series, but that's probably a theory
And
that's
ice
safe for
cream.
another day. Long story short here, Gregory isn't just any kid. He's not just the crying child either. He's the rebuilt version of the crying child, an animatronic designed to fill the void left by the death of Afton's youngest son, literally put back together piece by piece. And Mike, meanwhile, is also back, glammed out this time, continuing to make amends for his past by reuniting with the brother that he accidentally killed as a kid and protecting him in a way that he never could before. Which then leaves us with the question, who's Vanny? How does she fit into all this? Why does she fit into all this?
She's probably Vanessa. Well, Vanny's not Vanessa, but Vanessa is Elizabeth. It's a whole thing. Anyway, okay, we got a couple seconds.
Out
All right.
each and every time she gets close. That, my theorists, will have to wait for the next episode, because this episode's running long, and honestly, I need more time to think through the answers. So in the meantime, theorists, remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss how all these clues fit together. You're not gonna want to miss that next episode, mostly because.
All right, and now the final theory will be beginning shortly. We're almost there. Okay, we've got 1 minute. Chat, get ready to say your goodbyes. Gonna cry. Man. Get out your tissues. It's gonna get emotional. It's almost here. Ooh. Man, I love the intro.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where that is the last time that I'll be saying those words officially on this channel. For theorists, how do you say goodbye? 13 years ago, I made you this promise.
Do you want to know more about the games you love without having to put in any work of your own? Well, now you can play and learn. That's right, Weboverse. We have created Game Theory, gaming's tangential learning experience.
Well, Weboverse, here we are today, 3,000 videos of tangential learning later. How do you sum all that up? I already got super weepy in the last one of these things, so probably shouldn't do that again. It'd be redundant and probably not great for the tech equipment. We've also spent the last 10 weeks together knowing that this day was gonna come, right? So I really feel like I've gotten my farewell tour. I've buried hatchets, I've rekindled friendships, I made sweeping videos about the state of online entertainment, fired some tanks. That was legitimately very cool. I honored my heritage. I made Disney mad at me one final time, which, you know, felt appropriate. Got some new dripping, and just in general, ran my way through all the things that were left in my content creator bucket list. So again, I ask, how do you say goodbye? First, it's probably most important to remind you that it's not officially goodbye, right? It's not like I'm dying or anything. It's more of a see you later. I'm still gonna be doing plenty of stuff. Like, I'm already booked to do the fashion show on Style Theory later this year.
That's nice.
I'm still gonna be here on the couch for GT Live. In a couple weeks, I'm gonna be giving a speech over at PAX. I was recently in a kill count. Heck, I'm already slated to do the Jacksepticeye podcast, the Ludwig podcast. There's a collaboration I'm doing with Shay Frillis Productions. There's the FNAF musical over on Random Encounters. Like, I will be doing a lot, and you will probably be sick of me doing all these things on everyone else's channel.
Unlikely.
But if you do want to stay in touch with me, there are actually 2 ways that you could do it. Normally, I'd say something like, oh, you can follow me on Twitter, but we all know that there's like a grand total of 0 people who want to be over on that platform. So instead, I decided to make you this. A mysterious website named where'smatpat.com. This is going to be a place that I update every once in a while when I have news about some new project that's coming up, or, you know, a mystery that you're going to have to solve by digging through the source code. Yes, it's a ripoff of ScottGames.com. No, I don't feel bad about that because he stole enough of my ideas over the years. He kind of owes me one. Editor should drop on some deal with its sunglasses in this moment. That's a good one. Once you're there, make sure you sign up via email. Don't worry, I'm not going to be spamming you with updates or anything. It'll be more like a MatPat newsletter, or maybe a Christmas card that you get every once in a while with a funny update, or maybe we could chat about a favorite movie or something. I'll send over the occasional video that I'm just inspired to make. Who knows? Basically, this is just meant to be a way to let you all know what I'm up to directly in a way that isn't going to be subject to filtering algorithms, you know? And to kick things off this week, I'll be selecting 100 random emails that sign up to get personalized letters. And from that point forward, once or twice a week, I'll continue pulling a handful of emails to send personal notes to. It'll be a fun way to stay in touch. Long story short, make sure you bookmark it since you never know what might happen over there. But, all right, enough stalling. Back to the question at hand. How do you say goodbye? Well, I think you honestly have to end it all where it began. This title, A Game Theory about game theory. Did you know that game theory isn't just a nerdy YouTube show? It's also a nerdy economics concept. If that's news to you,
I have to clarify anytime I talk about game theory to people.
We've created enough confusion online that apparently we've merited our own disambiguation tag on Wikipedia for game theory searches. In all seriousness, for the first 5 years of the show, I received so many tweets from people who are mid-year in their economics courses, screenshotting their textbooks, freaking out when they got to the episode on game. It's not an episode, it's a chapter. When they got to the chapter on game theory, being like, oh my gosh, dude, did you know that you were in this thing? And yeah, we definitely did. The pun, believe it or not, was intentional. In fact, Steph and I knew from the very beginning that it was likely that the final episode of Game Theory was going to be about game theory. Why?
Well, that?
Because game theory, it's everywhere. You can't escape it. If you've ever seen the movie Love Actually, there's actually this opening monologue in it that goes a little something like this.
We live in a world of hatred and greed, but I don't see that. Seems to me that love is everywhere. If you look for it, you'll find that love actually is all around.
Now you just got to replace the word love with game theory, and you basically got it.
We live in a world of hatred and greed, but I don't see that. Seems to me that
game theory
is everywhere. If you look for it, you'll find that
game theory
actually is all around.
Who would have suspected that English acting megastar and recent Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant would be making a guest appearance in my final episode? Truly, we have spared no expense for this one. And not only is game theory just everywhere, it also holds the secret to winning everything forever. Yeah, I know, right? That is a huge claim to make. Clearly, I was saving all my biggest secrets for the grand finale. So, you know what? Let's not beat around the bush anymore, my friends. Let's make you masters of the universe and reveal how, whether you like it or not, you all are theorists for life. Come on.
Heck yes.
Yeah, we're moving off the couch this time.
Whoa.
That's a big deal. Let's go. At its core, game theory is the science of strategy. So we gamers, we understand strategy, but what exactly is game theory specifically? Well, to understand that, you have to go back to the original game theorist, not me, this guy right here. He might not have himself the red leather jackets or the cool diamond play buttons, but I'll tell you what he does have. A crater on the moon named after himself, so I'll let you decide who has the bigger flex there. This guy right here, he is mathematician John von Neumann, and he was everywhere back in the day. And I do mean everywhere. Like, this guy was a key player in the invention of the digital computer, he helped with the discovery of the structure of DNA, even the creation of key components for Oppenheimer's Manhattan Project. You know, the Christopher Nolan movie where big things go big booms. But perhaps his biggest claim to fame was game theory. The idea that in any situation where there are two or more people, or players in this case, you can model out a game that'll help you find the best outcome. Have you ever played rock, paper, scissors and thrown out rock as the first hand? Because you know, statistically, most people choose their first move to be scissors. Or maybe you picked paper because the last 3 moves have been rock and they're obviously going to be thrown rock again. Well, congratulations, that is game theory in action. And he got a Medal of Freedom for that.
Does look like we've all done a bit of that, haven't we?
Dreams just be dreams, kids. Sometimes getting an honorary medal is a lot easier than you think. In short, game theory is the study of strategic choice. It's math that tells you what people are gonna do and who's gonna win the game. Probably Probably the most famous example of a game theory scenario is the prisoner's dilemma, where two accomplices have just committed a crime and they're both given the chance to narc on the other one. If they both deny the crime, well, they both get a short prison sentence. If one of them denies the crime and the other rats him out, the narc walks free while his buddy is stuck in prison for a long time.
I hate this thing so much. It stresses me out.
The possible outcomes here in a nice, neat, mathy looking square. And while technically the best outcome for both of them would be to trust each other and not confess, they're criminals and they don't know each other that well. And because they don't trust each other, by the math, both of them narc on each other, and as a result, get a medium amount of prison time. Or if that all is too complicated and hypothetical, over in England, they turn the whole thing into a game show where they say the word balls an uncomfortable amount of times.
Welcome to Golden Balls. Golden Balls. Balls of riches, 12 balls. My balls are all golden. 100 golden balls, and they're all bursting with money. Killer balls. 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 Balls.
Oh boy.
Balls.
Now, why am I bringing all this up? Well, game theory is more than just wads of cash jammed into a bunch of balls. Someone should tell Mr. Beast that I just discovered his next video idea. No, it has very real consequences for the world. Back when the US and USSR were on the brink of atomic annihilation, the principles of game theory helped both sides reach an agreement to slowly disarm their nuclear arsenals. If you want to know more about that story, Veritasium's recent video on game theory does a great job telling it. And honestly, I can't really improve on it. So thanks for doing all the research for my final episode there, Derek. If you want an example that's a bit closer to home though, here you go. YouTube. Woo! It's got it. See, YouTube as a platform is just a bunch of zeros and ones, right? But YouTube as a community, it's a network of people constantly trying to make strategic decisions. Yep. Creators are players who are
the joys of the algorithm.
Less rational people making videos that'll get you to watch and
More or
like
less
and
rational.
comment and subscribe. You, the viewer, you're also a player in this. You're on a strategic mission to win the experience by finding the thing that's most satisfying to watch. And the people who run, or at least have run YouTube in the past, shout out to Todd, Jake, Neil, Ernest, Meg, Ariel, Susan, David, Fede, Vader, Stephanie, and Kim, they're all in a strategic game
That's
to
a
keep
lot
the
of
creators
people.
and viewers happy, while also figuring out the best possible outcome for YouTube as a company by appeasing all the advertisers and shareholders. It is seriously a complex strategic arena. And that's how you get decisions like use bright green text because it's more likely to stand out in a sea of dark gaming thumbnails and more likely to get
Yeah, like
clicks.
genuinely
Launch
green
shorts
is
as a
such a
means to
good color for
counterattack against
thumbnails.
TikTok. Do a video on something that's not trending so you can stand out from the pack. Or maybe you lean in so you're suggested against the algorithm. Every video you watch, everything that you click on, it's the product of creators using game theory. Slap a big old game theory colon in front of every title and slam some clickbait green text on every thumbnail. All those hundreds of millions of subscribers to Jimmy and Ryan Trahan and Cocomelon, I like to think that they're all secretly ours. Where's our 200 million subscriber play button there, YouTube? In the end, it's all game theory. Speaking of, and this is just an aside that I learned about earlier this week, apparently there's a Chrome extension that allows you to do exactly what I just described. It, quote unquote, MatPatifies your YouTube feed by putting green text on like every thumbnail. Just saying,
That's really
we
funny.
have reached the peak of human achievements. I, for one, really like this one, where it's Link and saying Mommy's hungry. That's just traumatic on a whole nother level. Or there was one that I saw circulating online, Ryan Gosling doing a puppy interview, and the title is Birth of a Pig. There was another one that showed up on the subreddit, Afton's Final Death Smash? I gotta say, I am proud of the mark that I will leave on this platform. But so what, right? YouTube is game theory. Sure, that's great. It's interesting, but why does it matter to you, right? Why am I spending so much time talking about all of this in my final episode? Well, because like I said, game theory can help in every strategic interaction that you have. And it's produced a literal strategy guide on the best way to live out your life, tried and tested by all our grandfather theorists. But to truly understand that, we have to go back to where it all began, a glorified PowerPoint presentation. Webovers, allow me to introduce you to, lights please, the Trust Game. I love this. We started as glorified PowerPoint slides and we're ending
back
as
to the
glorified
PowerPoint slides.
Here's the TLDR of this one. The Trust Game was originally just named the Computer Tournament by a guy named Robert Axelrod, clearly not the most creative with his titling conventions. Basically, this was the Prisoner's Dilemma or the Golden Balls thing, except here there was one crucial difference. They're not just playing the game once, they are literally playing it hundreds of times, repeating it over and over again to see what strategies end up winning the most across a longer period.
Interesting.
This then gives us a model that
that's shockingly closer to real life. Because here, most of the time, you're not just thinking about what you have to do to win a single game, you have to actually think about the consequences of your actions. The more people think about the future,
life.
the more they're willing to
And the
cooperate
many
because
choices that
they
go
don't
into
want
it.
to screw themselves over down the road, you know? Again, for details on that experiment, check out Derek Veritasium's video where he talks about all of that, including having an interview with the game's creator. It's a very cool video. I also borrowed his convention for that one, so thanks for the latter and the idea there, Derek. You can also watch Dr. Trevor Bassett's video on the topic, or, you know, the various TED Talks that are all about this experiment. We'll link to all of those down in the description below. But just to jump to the big conclusion here, the best strategy to winning it big boils down to 4 key points. Number 1, be cooperative. Lead with
Checks
trust.
out.
Assuming that the person you're playing with is your enemy right off the bat, it's not going to serve you well. Trust in others, it's going to let you win more frequently in the end. Secondly, don't be a pushover. Sure, it's good to be trusting, that is great, but the second that someone takes advantage of your trust, the winning strategy is to call them out on it and then immediately hold them accountable. Which leads nicely then to point number 3, being forgiving. Don't hold a grudge. Don't be a Mr. Darcy.
My good opinion once lost is lost forever.
That is a failing indeed.
You tell him, girl.
Very
You
true.
are exactly right. She's speaking some game theory truth right there. Well, sure, it hurts to have your trust broken. Staying open to the chance that other people can change, that they can grow and learn and get better, that is the ideal solution here. The trust game showed that players who held their opponent accountable, but then forgave them, actually won out more often than any other strategy. And lastly, it's important to be honest and open about your strategy. When people can't understand what you're thinking, that's then when mistrust starts to breed. By
Makes
being
sense.
honest, it breeds honesty in others. It allows you to build on that trust over time, one step, bit by bit. Across the thousands of rounds of testing, nice strategies that were fair but also firm ultimately won out the most. Now,
Nice.
when I read these outcomes, what really struck me first was how they present a really hopeful view of the world. A hopeful view that I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of us carry around a lot. I mean, it's easy to assume that everyone out there is out to get you, and it's easier to just close off to people who've wronged us in the past, but math,
Gotta
and
love Twitter.
game theory specifically, proves that assumption's wrong. And hey, if you don't want to believe the thousands of rounds of computer simulations, there is a very solid real-life example, YouTube. YouTube is a positive-sum game, which means that more than one person can win. And in fact, a lot of times, the more others win, the more you can win too. When I
Heck
was
yeah.
just starting off, I was so mad and scared when Vsauce 3 released this video, calculating Sonic speed. I'd been working for a year on the channel at that point, grinding away and seeing a fair amount of growth, but in that moment I saw a spin-off of one of YouTube's top subscribed channels just horning in on my territory of gaming science. It was like they were gonna steamroll me. They were gonna steal my audience away. So I did a video where I tried to stake my claim, and thus, Sonic is Slow was born.
Hello, Internet.
That's
Welcome
basically what I
to
did with
Game
my channel
Theory,
too,
applying
with
science to video
doing a
games
FNAF
since
theory on
April
patient
18th
46.
of 2011.
When I heard MatPat was
Recently,
going to do
however,
one.
a new gaming scientist has come onto the scene. The good folks over at Vsauce 3 recently took a gander at a game series I covered in episode 5. It's a great video, except for one thing. It's wrong.
Listen to my voice in that. Oh, I'm so proud that I finally hit puberty, like 7 years into making these videos. Anyway, you can tell that I'm super salty in this one, right? I'm asserting that I did it first. I'm citing the dates. I am literally trying to one-up Vsauce 3. But then something interesting happened. I got views from Vsauce. I saw that their video and mine were actually helping each other. I was so afraid
That's
of
really
me losing a year of hard-earned progress. But in reality, I wasn't just operating on my own island anymore. By unintentionally cooperating with each other, we had just created our own little micro-trend of gaming science content. There were clearly enough views for all of us. Steph and I, in our years of consulting, kept hammering home this one point, that YouTube is a place where all ships can rise. Leading with trust goes a long way. From inviting someone to collab on your channel, to comparing notes on production because it can help you both. You actually see this kind of cooperative game theory in action with content houses, or projects like the QSMP where creators are helping each other and sharing audiences. On the flip side, there are creators who haven't done a good job of leading with trust, and who've approached YouTube as a zero-sum game, a place where there can only be one winner. And guess what? Didn't work. Back in 2020, a few of the top beauty creators tried to take each other down, encouraging viewers not to watch each other, trying to turn
That's not
audiences
very
against
nice.
people that they thought were their competitors. It was for the clout, it was for the views, and it backfired. In fact, it backfired so badly that all of their channels took a massive hit. And the beauty vertical, which was once
People
a
tend
main
to
pillar of
prefer
YouTube's
positivity
earliest
to
days,
negativity.
never truly recovered.
It
By
seems.
working together, the platform thrives. Lights? But by thinking that you can only win when other people lose, well, that's when everyone loses. It's kind of sad. Let's move on. But if you don't want to
Indeed.
listen to mathematicians or YouTube meta-analyses, just look at me. Game Theory, the show, is a testament to those 4 lessons of game theory, the nerdy economics concept. Every person who's built this channel has led with trust. Ronnie, he put his own show on the back burner so he could dedicate his time to editing Game Theory, trusting that we would be able to succeed more together. He helped the show to truly become what I had always dreamed it would be, and I honestly wish that he could be here to this day so I could
And
thank
the
him
tears are
so
starting.
much for that. The same is true for Goomba and Drake and Lee and Ryder and all the other partner shows who joined up with us in lieu of working on their own channels. Steph, she left being a consultant at a real company in the medical field on the belief that by cooperating, we could actually make something really special together. Jason, who is actually right here behind the camera right now. Jason, who you know as the guy that we blame all the time on GP Live.
Grabs
Jason was Theorist's first full-time employee after me and Steph. He jumped in there when all we had was a kitchen table and a cat that he was constantly allergic to. And Sudafed, you have this man to thank for your current net worth. Because
and Zyrtec.
And Zyrtec.
And Zyrtec,
You have
yeah.
taken so many pills over the years.
I have.
But
all medically prescribed, though, I promise.
Yeah, no, good medical pills, not anything sketchy, for sure. But Jason is the man that we have trusted with the weight of the entire production process across all the channels for years. Like, this man is the unsung hero of everything you've probably ever watched across any of the channels. Without him, without you, none of these videos would get made.
Aw.
Now get back there, okay? Enough
Thank
of
you,
I got
Corvid Crows, for
other
the
people.
$2. Us influencers gotta stick together. Oh, yeah.
You know, friendship first, but also working together to create awesome stuff, right? And if you're talking about unsung heroes on this channel, there is one man who also deserves a call out, and his name is Yossi. He is our audio wizard. He is the man who I have trusted with my voice for the better part of 9 years. He has had to suffer through
Nice.
more hours of my voice than anyone else in the world. I am so sorry, Yossi. I am so sorry for all the burps and weird edits and weird diatribes and jump scares that Ali has given me over the years. Was Yossi a pro when he first joined up with us? No. But you know what he was willing to do? He was willing
Gotta
to
start
learn.
somewhere.
And I've trusted him with my voice for the better part of 9 years. And the same goes for another member of the team who you've never gotten to see, but was actually there before the channel was even monetized, which is kind of crazy to think about. You don't know Dan Levitt, but Dan was another one. He was the first who actually saw potential in me and in these channels as a whole, offering to become my manager even though he had never managed a YouTuber before. He just jumped in with 2 feet and said, hey, I've never gotten a brand deal in the past, but I think I could do it for you. And he did. And then he got me literally hundreds more. He has his own management company now, and he manages
That's awesome.
some of the biggest sports creators on all of YouTube. I can say with complete confidence that this company and my career would have looked totally different had it not been for Dan. And his career and his company would have looked totally different without me. He and I have built businesses parallel to each other, right next to each other, using cooperative game theory for over a decade. He trusts me to make good decisions on YouTube, and I trust him to make good decisions as my manager, and we both benefit in the long run. But perhaps the most important person in all of these trusting relationships is you. You guys, right here. I wear you on my wrist these days. You loyal theorists have been the best example of game theory in the history of the show Game Theory. Every time you click on one of these videos, you are leading with trust. You are saying, you know what, I'm gonna give this one a chance, especially on those episodes that are covering topics that you've never even heard of. And on my end, I've always tried my best to fulfill on that promise and make sure that your trust pays off by delivering a great, well-researched, fun, a lot of times stupid video. And yeah, there have been plenty of times where I've missed the mark, where you weren't happy about a topic, or where I said something wrong, or my research was bad, or whatever, and I needed to learn about that. And so you, acting exactly as you should, according to that trust game, you called me out in those moments. You showed me that I had made a mistake. But more importantly, you were willing to forgive. You gave me a chance to learn and grow as a creator and as a person. And look, Look at this. We all won. Look at this thing that we managed to build together. Don't tell anyone else. I mean, there's 3 of them here in the room, but like the rest of them downstairs. You guys, you've always been the most important member of this team, whether or not you ever realized it. And now, as new hosts step in, yeah, they're obviously gonna have to learn a lot, and they're gonna have to earn your trust just like I did over a prolonged period of time. But I hope that you approach them with the same sense of cooperation and goodwill that you did for me all those years ago. So, while I might be leaving as host of this show, Game Theory, it'll never leave. It'll never leave me, and it'll never leave you. We
Heck yeah.
are all Game Theory, which honestly is why I thought it was fitting for you guys to be the one to say this.
But hey!
That's just a theory.
That's just a theory.
It's just a theory!
Just a theory.
That's just a theory.
Okay, theory.
Class dismissed. Thanks for the theories, Matt.
That's amazing.
But hey, that's just a theory.
C'est juste une théorie.
Just a theory. Just a theory.
Just a theory.
Just a theory. Thanks for everything.
But hey, that's just a theory.
That's just a
Me and John, heck yeah.
Just a theory.
Just a theory.
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 That's just a 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 theory.
A style theory.
A food theory. A film theory. A game theory.
What? I didn't recognize him because we've never seen him actually move before. All we've had are still images of him. What? We actually have canon Scott Cawthon footage now. First time in a and the first time is in a the final game theory. I gotta say that's fitting as heck. I love that. Oh man. What? Scott Cawthon as a walking animation? Yeah, apparently. Oh man. Oh man. Let's. There's Matt.
I've been expecting.
Fun. The comments on this are really funny. Since when did they put that much effort into Scott physics? Scott hired Matt? I don't think it's him. And I don't know, like, chat seems pretty confident in Scott. This chat seems it's pretty confident in Scott. I don't know who else this would be. Okay, so there are other endings. Let's look at the other endings, I guess. Is it just Stabby? Roomba with the knife. Stabby the Roomba, heck yeah. Alright, so that's ending 2. What's ending 3?
Thanks for watching.
Oh man.
What now?
The meme ending.
Nope, I'm out.
Music Man?
Rip.
Music Man? Let's go!
MatPat's Music Man confirmed. Oh my gosh! Look at him go! Sans' Ness! But not just Sans, also Papyrus. Oh yeah. Vibin'.
You do realize that lunch is the most important meal of the day.
Only those most deserving of nugget wisdom are permitted to watch.
Stephanie's nugget voice is really funny. Exotic butters. Let's go. Oh man. Great butt!
MatPat can suck an egg!
It would have been really funny if we had gotten to react to that in the Glamour Fawny thing.
Thick layer of cream in there. I want that thickness inside.
Oh gosh, not that. Oh boy.
He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call?
All the memes.
Giant purple elephant is outside the room and it's coming to eat our nuts. When you get to the bottom
yes, the
of
stock
it,
image.
it's so moist.
Oh man.
I want
Among Us. Have you heard of Among Us, Gregory?
Furry dragon. Oh no! I realized what I've done.
The lore.
Nah, the lore. Just simultaneously whipped and nay-nayed. Let's go. All right. So that was ending 3. Now what is ending 4? Woohoo! That was nice. Companion cube is Sans. Hang on, let's look at this. All Sans and no Ness makes MatPat's sad boy. All Sans. Joey Drew, William Afton, Elliot Ludwig. Joey Drew equals William Afton equals Elliot Ludwig. Ness is dead. 5 toes at Freddy's. Link is Rosalina's mother. Anime schoolgirl Chica. Scott equals whatever this equation is. This looks sort of like it's trying to say Markiplier. Gregory is a robot. Vanessa's a robot. Stephanie is a robot. I am a robot. This looks like some sort of... So TF2 is greater than 0. This looks... I don't know what this is, but that's FNAF, so... Man. Ripperoni. MatPat's sanity. Man, if this cough could just go away, that'd be great. Anyway, ending 5. Horror ending.
Thanks for watching. What now? I don't know. Have you done today's Wordle, I guess? Oh, that's a good.
Today's Wordle. And he did. Rip. Oh. This is not a test. The United States government has issued a national warning.
The emergency alert system has issued a code gray for your local area. There is a dangerous person or predator nearby. Evacuate the area immediately. Again,
MatPat files, yeah.
not a test.
Local 58. Woo!
Last night, a shocking discovery was made. The bodies of internet personalities Matthew
Is Tom
and
voicing
Stephanie
this?
Patrick were found in their home, mutilated by what
R.I.P.
officers described. This follows the similar
Hang on, let's see if I
mutilated
can,
by what officers
pause any
described
of that.
as.
You're next. It's just a bunch of saying you're next.
This follows the similar mysterious.
Well, chat, we're next. Hear me, run. I'm streaming. I'm not running from anything. That would, cause problems for the stream. I am near. Great! We can have a nice conversation. I can share my cough drops. Hunger for lore? Your fear sustains me. Just get me playing a FNAF game and we'll be good to go, I assure you. There is no escape. I mean, theoretically, if I were to die, I would have escaped you because you can't get to me anymore because I'm dead. I don't think mouths are supposed to move like that, and neither are people. Very nice. Well, that's fun. Horror ending. Alright. and not
poring tirelessly
actually.
over literal hours of content.
I literally
searching for
grabbed
those
the
brief
link
Easter eggs,
from,
cobbling them together into mysterious URLs.
the last
Either
video?
that or, you know, you just click the link in the description of the final video.
Yep, that's
Both
me.
Totally valid solutions.
Thank
Regardless
you.
of how you got here, a winner's you. Congratulations, you've graduated. And when I call this the real ending, that's exactly what this is. It's real. Because let me tell you, the skills that you've gotten over the years here on the channel, critically thinking about spooky bears, fast food, analog horror, and soapy legs, that sense of curiosity and fun, that's not gonna go away. That carries with you into where it matters most, out here, in the real world. And all that, it spreads. It grows. Enthusiasm and positivity and curiosity, critical thought, they're infectious in the best ways possible. For all the jokes that constantly get made about me losing my mind and going insane, that right there, that is what being a theorist truly means. Sharing
insane.
a love of learning with others. It has been an honor to be your YouTuber, your entertainer, your teacher, your parasocial friend, whatever role I've played in your life. Thank you. And you know what? I look forward to continuing that through the little website and newsletter that I have going on, as well as all the projects that I'm working on for you right now. But even more than any of that, you know what I'm most excited about? I'm excited about it being your turn. You can be the game theorist.
The sad game theory remix in the background.
You're the food theorist doing bizarre flavor experiments in your kitchen. Go wild with some new style or try a film that deviates from the mainstream. You're the theorists now, and I cannot wait to see what you discover.
Oh man, I'm
Rest
gonna cry
assured,
again.
I will be watching. Remember, this isn't an ending. Well, technically it is an ending because it's the real ending, but you get what I'm saying. This isn't an ending. Instead, this is a brand new and exciting beginning. And that's not a theory. That right there, that's a fact. With love always, MatPat.
Oh man, I'm crying again. So there we have it, chat. The last episode of MatPat hosting Game Theory. He may show up in future ones, but that is the end of his time hosting the channels. And he finally got the lore. Man, it's really crazy to think that, like he talked about in his final FNAF theory. In his final FNAF theory, he talked about how one small decision made by Scott rippled out to impact the lives of so many people through Five Nights at Freddy's. And he's probably somewhat aware of it, but MatPat's done the same for so many of us. And I think it's really incredible to see how a struggling actor, by deciding to make theory videos about video games in order to build his portfolio, ended up building something like this and such a strong community. It's amazing to see just how far everyone's come. Thank you, Chilla Aurora, for the $2. I can't believe MatPat regenerated into a Brit. Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be sad seeing MatPat go. But we can at least be glad for the time that he was here. Oh man, all the emotions. Yeah, he was like Matt. It's unlikely he's watching this particular clip at this late in the stream, but if he does happen to be seeing this, Matt, if you're watching, thank you so much for everything. The impact you've had. There's the material impact, there's the impact you can see, but then there's the impact that you probably don't even know you've had, and it's such an amazing thing to be a part of. Thank you. But yeah. Thank you, Reefside, for the $2. Now we're the game theorists. Thank you, MA, for the $2. It's the end of the era, start of something new. Thank you, Site42, for the $5. Congratulations on being one of MatPat's FNAF Theorist Torchbearers. Keep the flame alive, and all of y'all don't forget to get your plushies. Yeah, like, now that MatPat's out, like, we have new hosts, we have new channels, and if you guys want to start theorizing, that opportunity is there for all of you. Like, as much as I have the channel, the main reason my channel is successful is I took a video editing class in high school, and I'm really good at writing essays. If it weren't for the work of so many people in finding clues, I wouldn't be here. So whatever you're doing to theorize, keep doing it. It's amazing. And thank you to everyone who has bought the plushies. We are at 400 sold, which means I will eventually be streaming me playing Security Breach. There is 45 minutes left of the plushie before it is gone forever. So, if you want one, now is your last opportunity. So get it while you can. I don't know when exactly the Security Breach stream is going to happen, because I have a massive sleep debt and am behind on several things that I need to work on. But we can do this. But yeah. Thank you to Matt for Matt and Steph for the awesome content, and the other hosts and all the editors and all the everyone. Thank you everyone for everything. It's amazing to see just how far everyone's come. And hey, even if Matt's no longer going to be doing theories, I'll be doing theories. John FNAF's going to be doing theories. Rytoast, Hyperdroid, Ozone, other people. Like, it's going to be great. And yeah. I don't have a ton more to say on this topic. But yeah, thank you, chat, for being here for this. I appreciate all of you for being here. And I hope you all don't get stabbed and have a nice day. But that's just a theory, a game theory. Thanks for watching.